everyone. Welcome to Future Home Loans headquarters. I'm here with Daniel Danger Danius, and our guest this week is going to be Mike McCann. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and JaxCo Furniture.
Awesome. Well, I'm Mike McCann. I'm born and raised here in Jacksonville, Florida. I ended up going to school in Charleston, South Carolina, where I kind of stumbled into the furniture industry at a pretty young age. And it was weird. I started for, just working at this company, delivering furniture kind of for beer money. And that turned into about a 10-year career with this company. I helped take a very small furniture operation from one store and about $60,000 in sales to over 50 locations and $25 million. So I learned the furniture industry kind of from the bottom up, inside and out. And it was a unique experience. I ended up taking a hiatus from that company and starting kind of my entrepreneurial journey. I started small and kind of did some independent, consulting, and I kind of started some websites and kind of a bunch of false starts, not really sure what I wanted to do next. I ended up back in Jacksonville working for a healthcare IT company, which it turns out I knew it before I started, but I wasn't a very good employee. So in 2018, I started the process of opening my own business, my own furniture store, and JaxCo Furniture was born in December 2018. So we're about 5 years old, and we've been just rolling ever since, and it's been exciting. So JaxCo is a locally owned furniture and mattress store. We have everything from mattresses and bedroom furniture, all the way down to accents like rugs and lamps and patio furniture and everything like that. So if you walk into a Haverty's or Rooms to Go or an Ashley, we do the same thing. We just do it with a little bit better style, lower prices, and a local feel. And one thing that really sets us apart from the competition and from everybody else is that we donate mattresses. We donate beds to our neighbors who are in need. So at the end of this year, cumulative total, we'll have donated about 400 mattresses to families and veterans in need throughout the time that we've been open. So that's one thing that I really love to make sure people hear about us in the first couple minutes.
Awesome. And where are you guys located, Mike?
Our store's on Atlantic Boulevard. We're in between all the car dealerships. We're at 9978 Atlantic Boulevard, right next door to Northern Tour.
You told us a little bit about JaxCo and then also how you kind of got started into the furniture business. Do you think Jacksonville is a good place to start a business? You've started this new business. What do you think about Jacksonville for being a city to start a new business?
Absolutely. I told you I lived in Charleston for a long time. I lived there for 12 years. And I saw Charleston rise to what we know as it today. We see this beautiful city and it's always been a beautiful city, but it never had like the real, the tourism aspect, and it never had Boeing that was there. So all those things happened while I was there. I watched Charleston go from just this historic town to a town that had a lot of a big tourism arm in their economy, to recruiting Boeing, to having a tech sector. And they have this basically big three-legged economy now that's propped them up. And Jacksonville is no different. We've got these different big branches of what we can do. We've got a lot of finance companies. We've got a lot of healthcare companies. And people are moving here just left and right, as both of you guys know. I meet people all the time coming from, not only West Coast and up north, but just from, Kansas and the middle of the country, because they heard that there's a beach here. And so we get those folks. And I think anyone who's willing to take the entrepreneurial leap and start a business, this is a great place to do it, because the future is bright, as a friend of mine says. And there's a lot of potential in the next few years as Jacksonville continues to grow. So
I have a follow-up question I want to ask about that, actually, because when I talked with you and heard some of your story, one thing that was clear is you hit the ground running with networking. And would you mind sharing a little bit about why the importance of networking, the effectiveness of networking, your approach to networking?
Sure, yeah. It comes because the person that I learned the furniture industry for, my first kind of mentor, he was big on that. He was the outgoing. He was the person who didn't meet a stranger. He was the person who always had business cards on him. And he showed me what that meant, to just always pass out business cards, always make connections. And when I moved to Jacksonville, I already had a pretty warm market from having grown up here, even though I hadn't lived here for a while. And so I knew that if I was going to have success, I needed to develop some of those important, long-standing relationships, and really just be out in the community. Because if you can only do so much advertising, you can only spend so much on Google ads and social media and things like that. At the end of the day, you have to really develop relationships and be kind of boots on the ground and make sure people know who you are, because people buy from people that they like, at the end of the day. And I'm a pretty likable guy most of the time. So I know that if I can get in front of people and hand them my business card and share with them our story of what we're trying to do as far as the donations and growing a local company, they're going to want to support us. Now, we have to back it up when they come in the store and provide great customer service and good styles and pricing. But that's something that I think is really important for us to get separated from the rest of the competition.
I was going to ask, you've been now in business for 5 years. You're an entrepreneur. You're a great marketer. You're obviously an awesome dynamic leader. What are some of the pain points that you've had so far as you've gotten started?
As with anybody, hiring is always difficult. It's always hard to find good people. We just went through a spurt where we were trying new things, right? We've always used the ZipRecruiters and the Indeeds to find new folks. But some of our best people have come back to Daniel's question. Like, they've come back from referrals. Some of our most longstanding employees came from a referral, a warm network person who had heard about us, or was a friend of a friend, or was a cousin of someone, or anything like that. And those folks have been really important to us. On top of that, it's really just been initially, the initial part of getting the business off the ground was a little bit difficult with the city of Jacksonville. We talked about that. So getting through like the regulations and the building permits and stuff like that. As many folks who live around Jacksonville, if you've ever signed a commercial lease, you know that it's not easy to get opened up. So initially out of the gates, that was a hard thing. But ongoing, the challenge has always been finding and retaining really good help. So that's the biggest thing that I can think of.
Yeah, I think you've already given a few good nuggets for people that are thinking about starting a new business in general. But specifically, like, if you're in front of somebody and they're like, Mike, I want to start a new business, how do I get started? What would you recommend to somebody that was in that place?
Oh man, I would be very specific about my answer for them. As both of you guys know, I'm a big reader. I love books, and I love to learn from other people's experiences and mistakes, especially. And I'd give them a few specific books and a few specific things to get them off of the ground. But in short, my answer would be have a plan. When we first opened up, I had pretty much created an entire operating manual. Now, I'd already been in the furniture industry, so I had a little bit of that knowledge, but an operating manual as far as when someone gets hired, what am I going to do with them? How am I going to onboard them? I'm going to give them a t-shirt and a welcome packet, and we're going to talk about this, this, and this on the first day. When we get to this amount of sales, I can then hire a new administrative person. When I get to this level of warehousing, then we need to expand. We need to go into another warehouse. When we get to this level of deliveries, we need to hire a second delivery team. So having a plan for how I wanted to grow, and not just saying like, all right, we're going to go out and try to sell furniture. Having a growth plan to get to that first level, second level, third level helped us tremendously, because we experienced some really weird years in 2020. COVID was our second year in business. So we got a lot of things thrown at us that were curveballs, but having a plan helped us to really stay on track, even with those curveballs coming at us that we didn't see coming.
I got another question. You've written a book.
Yes.
Do you mind if I ask, like, what was that process like? What did you write a book about? Like, how did that come up to write a book?
I thought this little spurt in between previous furniture company and today, part of that journey was me writing a book. And I wrote one small book that was about my work experience, kind of getting jobs without, I didn't want to have a resume, so I wanted to be able to get it on my own merit. And they ended up being kind of small jobs here and there, but it was a fun book to write and try out. But I published a hardcover paperback book in 2015. It was called Believe EG21, and it was about my college experience. I was fortunate enough to play football at Charleston Southern University, and I was a part of the first team that ever had a winning season, and the first conference championship team. And the book was about that experience. We lost a teammate of ours. He passed away right before our season started, and we were devastated, and we didn't know how to move forward. And the book is about overcoming adversity, and the book is about always believing that there is hope. And if you don't ever lose hope, then you can accomplish some amazing things.
So you talked a little bit before having to go through the struggles with COVID and opening a new business and all that, so forth. Kind of what is your goals in the next 5 years?
Good question. Our goals in the next 5 years will be to open up a second location. One of our big stepping stones towards having multiple stores in Jacksonville has been to get an expanded warehouse. And right now I'm sitting in our brand new expanded warehouse. It's next to our warehouse. It's just way more square footage. So we started in our building where we have our retail store was about 4,400 square feet. Then we grew to 8,800 square feet. And today I'm sitting in 17,500 square feet. So we've grown over the years, and that's all been within that 5-year span. So for us, the next step in growth is to have multiple stores around Jacksonville. And everybody's follow up to that is, well, where are you going to go? Well, that depends on where I can get a really good deal. There's a lot of growth that's down, in the St. John's area. And there's a lot of growth that's kind of north near kind of the wildlife community that's being put in. There's also a ton that's happening downtown Jacksonville. Our store's kind of close to downtown Jacksonville. So I don't have a perfect answer for that just yet, but that's where we want to go. That's our big overarching goal. So trickling down from underneath that, there's multiple smaller goals like having multiple delivery trucks and teams on the road and expanding our footprint in our current warehouse and some different things like that, and hiring and revenue goals, of course, to try to lead us up to that. Because to open up a new store, you got to have a war chest to open up, and there's a lot of expenses that go into a new deposit and everything like that for a new building. But that's our main overarching ones, to have multiple stores long term. In the 10-year plan, we want to have at least 4 stores opened up. But in the short term, number 2 is the first one at a time.
I have one more question for you, Mike, and it's on the subject of, you are a big reader, and you've talked about a lot of books that kind of inspire you or whatever. And on that, I'm just kind of interested. What's one book, and maybe not, you don't have to think about whether it's your best favorite one or whatever, but what's one book that's really kind of inspired you in business, and why?
I'll give the one that I give out the most is called Lynchpin, and it's by an author named Seth Godin. He's my favorite author. He's a big marketer, and he's big on continuing to show up, always showing up, right? In B&I, it's attendance is big, right? Because showing up matters. Part of what he talks about is bringing your best self, not just showing up and, kind of like, all right, I'm here, but showing up with your best self, right? And I'm looking at what's that? Suited up? That's right. Yeah. I was saying, I'm looking at Proffitt here. He doesn't show up, and he's not just over there in the corner like, yeah, what's up, guys? He's there with energy every morning that we have a B&I meeting, right? That's important, and that matters. And so the linchpin is all about bringing your best self to work every day and going above and beyond. I always talk about watering the plants, right? So if you've ever watched The Office, when Dwight Schrute, he leaves the office for a while, the plants start dying. Yeah. And nobody knows why. Well, it's because Dwight was coming in early and watering the plants. He wasn't looking for recognition. He wasn't doing anything special or getting paid for it, but he went above and beyond. He was a linchpin because he was doing things like that where nobody noticed, and he just took pride in his work. So that's what that book is about. And I give that to all my employees when they first start, to say that this is setting the tone for what I'm going to bring to work and my expectation of you when you work for me.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that one out too.
You got a reading list now.